Hey guys, let's get started on some Python and SQL. So this is designed for the level 2 course 91641. No, that's not it. I'm not sure what the achievement standard is, but it's the level 2 digital information achievement standard that we're going to be looking at here. So Python is not the focus here. The focus is on integrating a database and another application. So in this case, we'll write a short one ourselves. So we're going to be implementing a simple Python program with a database. The database that we're going to use is SQLite, and this is actually a library that comes with the default installation of Python. I'm going to be using Python 3, and you can type into the editor I'm using is Sublime Text. I don't like idle. It's not great. It's a bit buggy. This works really well. I'm going to use this import SQLite 3. And then I'm going to save this. I'm going to save it into, I'm just going to save it into my downloads. I've got a database folder here, tutorial, and I'm going to call this create_db.py. When you name a file in Sublime Text with .py, it will mark it up with Python formatting in here. And we can also, I'll just quickly show you something here. You can go Tools, Build With, and select Python, and it will build down the bottom here. Now, any inputs you use in Python won't actually work down here, but that's why we're also going to use another library later on called EasyGUI. So I'm not going to worry about tkint or anything. We're just going to build our GUI using EasyGUI. And this is all we need for now. So we are going to create a connection to a database. I'm going to put code comments in. I'll make this font slightly bigger so you can see it. Import the SQLite 3 library into Python. This will add, of course, if you're familiar with this, you don't need to add these comments, but this is really for students, just so that they know what they're typing when they look back at previous code. This will add the SQL methods and class to our program. Might just make that a bit smaller. One other tool that's really handy is SQLite Viewer. If you just type in SQLite Viewer into Google, it should be the first page that loads up, and it works really well. I'm pretty sure I don't have it there, but if I go into here and SQLite, there it is, SQLite browser. This is the one, and I've just downloaded the portable app and installed that. You can install that pretty much anywhere. If you're on your home computer, you might just want the Windows exe. Don't worry about the Mac, the source, or the tarball down the bottom there. Okay. So we're going to create a connection to a database, and this con is just a variable name. Con equals SQLite3.connect. And we type in the name of the database, test.db for now. And if this database, so we're going to connect to a database file. If the file does not exist, it will be created. Okay, so if it doesn't exist, it will be created. I'm just going to have a quick look over here and see what I did here. It's probably a good idea in this case to try and accept all over the place. So I'll just put this here. So we're going to try that. And we'll just print down the bottom here. Successful connection. And then in here, accept, print. There was an error. We're not going to worry about, at the moment, informing the user what the error is. Now, what we've got here is a program that will run. So I can actually run this. I can just push Control B to run it now, because I've already done build with. So build with Python. And if I run this again, it says successful connection down the bottom. Now over here in the SQLite viewer, I can actually open this database up and find it. It's going to be in my downloads and in my database folder in my tutorial. There it is. It's been created, test.db. And currently it has nothing in it. It has no tables. That's really all we're worried about, the tables in this database. So we're going to create these tables here. So we're going to do another try. Create a table within the database. Now, to create a table, we can't do it in Python. We have to do it in the database language, which is called SQL. It stands for Structured Query Language. And what each line of code does, it's essentially a query in the database, which will either modify the database or get information out of the database. So the first thing we're going to do is create a table within the database. So to do this, though, we need to build up a query. So we're going to make a query here. And this is what the query is going to equal. It's going to be a string. Create table company. And I'll just double check here. Create table company. And then in brackets, we put the fields that we need. Now, I'm going to put this on multiple lines. So I'm going to use 3 of these quotations and 3 at the end. This will just make it a little bit easier to read. So the first one is going to be ID. And we need to say, well, what values do we want ID to be able to hold? In this case, I'm going to make it int. One cool thing that we could do, and I'm just going to check, because we can go over to here and go create table. And I'm not going to execute this, but I will get the code for it. ID, it's going to be text, auto increment, unique primary key. Okay, so I'm just going to grab this actually and throw it in here. But I don't need that. Okay, and I don't need it to say integer. It will determine that. So what primary key does, it means that there can only be one of these. And I don't want this to be the primary key, actually. But I do want that to auto increment, and I do want it to be unique. So there can only be one of each ID, and I'll put a comma there. The next one is going to be name. This is going to be, I'll tab that out. This is going to be text. This is going to be the primary key. And it's also going to be not null, which means it can't be empty. Then we're going to have an age. This is going to be an int. If that happens, then you hit tab and it turns into int2. Just hit space first. I'll just tab this out here. This is also going to be not null. It can't be empty. ID will not be empty because of the nature of auto increment. It will automatically add a new one. And then we're going to have address, which is going to be char 20. That means it can have a maximum of 20 characters in that address. And then lastly, salary. And on the end here, I put the closing bracket because we had a closing one there. This could all be written on one line. It's just a little bit different, a little bit difficult to write it all on the one line. So I don't want that. I just wanted to check how auto increment does. So here's our query. And then we're going to run this query within the database. So we go con.execute, and then we execute the query. So this here is SQL code. This is the Python command to execute SQL code on that database connection. So we've got a file open, test.db, and we're going to execute this query on this database. And I will just put in an except down here. Print, there was an error. Maybe the table already exists. Now, there could be multiple errors. I could have typed something wrong here, but the first time I run the program, it gives me, there was an error. Maybe the table already exists. So something I've written here hasn't quite worked out. So I'm just going to compare it to this one and bring that across. And let's have a look here. Query equals create table company. That's what I've done. I'm not worried about the colors there. ID int primary key, not null. Oh, that's different, but that's fine. Primary key, not null. Oh, I forgot the end line statement at the end there. So SQL is a different language, and there are some things that we need to structure it properly. So I can run this again now. I'll just throw this back in here in case I need to look at it. And I'll run that. It says there was an error. Table already exists. Now, if I want to see what this error is for now, I'm just going to get rid of the try and accept. And it will tell me what this error is. Auto increment is a syntax error. Okay, I'll try it with a... I'll just get rid of that altogether, to be honest. I'll just make it unique and not null. See if that runs. Okay, that did run that time. If I refresh this table over here, I should see now I've got a company table here with ID, name, age, address, and salary. Now, I do want it to auto increment, so I'll have to have a look at how we do that for the future, but for now, it's not a problem. Okay, so the name is set to primary key. What this means is I cannot have two names in here the same. That may not be ideal for this here because I may have two people named Jay working at this company, but if it was a username, so a username that I'm logging onto a website, that would probably be the primary key. I don't want two usernames to be identical. We'll throw that try back in there, so I'll tab this out, put that try back in, hit that accept. Now if I try to run this, it says there was an error. Maybe the table already exists because this code will cause an error if there's already a table company. It can't make another one. I could make a table company. I spell it wrong. Run this code. It's all good. Go to here, refresh it. And I've now got two tables, one with the wrong name, but I'm just going to delete that table there, that second one. Any changes you make in here, which you don't want to, really, this is just for viewing. If you do make changes here, you have to hit write changes, or else it will lock the database and you won't be able to do anything with it in Python. So now we've got our table made and we used a query to make it. We can move on. We're going to add a record to this. So create a new file, save it. This is going to be called add record.py. And just keep in mind, this tutorial is for absolute beginners. I don't want a whole bunch of pro Python people commenting on the video saying that this is not how you do it. There's more efficient ways. There's better ways to do this, etc. This is for really absolute beginners here. People that have never done this before. All we're doing is looking at some basic SQL, linking it to a database. So we'll write in the add record function. So I've already done this over here. It's pretty straightforward here. There is a few extra bits. So first we'll need to import SQLite 3. Then we'll need to make a connection to the database. Test.db. Con equals SQLite 3.connect. And we will also, then we need the query itself. So we'll write in a query here. Now you'll notice that if I've looked over here, I haven't actually written in queries. I've just executed the code directly in here. It's probably easier to do it this way. So this is going to be an insert query. So insert into company. We say insert into company. And then we put in brackets the fields that we want to insert into company. So we know the fields are ID, name, age, address, salary. Then we need to type in values. I'm just going to do that on the next line. I'm going to put in a backslash here and just do this on the next line. That pink thing there means that these are the same line in Sublime Text, at least in the version that I'm using. So values. And the values are going to be, the first one is a number. So I'm just going to put in a random number here. The second one is a name. So I'll put in my name. The third one is the age. So I'll put in my age. The fourth one is an address, so I'll put in just a state. And the last one is a salary, which I'll put in a salary. That's not my salary, wish it was. So then this will work. Well, it will work once we actually execute that code. Con.execute query. And then we need to commit any changes to the database. And finally, we need to close the database, which is something I didn't do in the other one. So right down the bottom here, we should have con.close. So I run this, it's finished. Okay, so it doesn't give us any feedback on it, but we can look and see over here that the data has been entered in. Now, if I try to run this again, it's going to give me an error because it says here, unique constraint failed, company name. Okay, so the name here has the same name that's already been in. So the name here, I'm trying to add it to the database, but it says that the name is unique. So I need to change it, so we'll do that. Then it fails again because the company ID is also unique. So now it runs. Refresh that. I've got 2 entries with unique keys here and unique keys here. So you can go through and add in a few different values, change those. Just keep in mind that the 3 have to be numbers and these 2 have to be text. I actually have a feeling that you'll be able to enter a text string. I'll just try this. I'm pretty sure this will work. It will, and it should convert. Yeah, it does. It converts it to an integer. So it will convert strings to integers, but it will not convert an integer to a string. At least I don't think it will. It may do, but it's not a big deal here. Anyway, so that's our add record. We insert into table name, the fields we want to insert it into, and then the values in the same order as the fields. And this can all be on one line. If you get rid of that backslash, put it all on one line, it would be fine. I have made a mistake. I need an end line there, which I didn't have before, but that should be on the end of that statement there. So that's the second part, adding a record. Finish the video there, and we'll look at Easy GUI in the next video.